We've done this before, no?
Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller today. Our special guest is Rabbi Yossi Harlig from Friendship Circle and Chabad of Pinecrest and Kendall.
Yes.
Okay.
Always a great honor to be here.
And we're going to talk about a couple things. One, we're going to talk about Rosh Hashanah. We're going to talk about Friendship Circle and about some events that have happened to you personally a few weeks ago. So let's talk about Rosh Hashanah. It's coming up. So let's talk about, number one, why is it Rosh Hashanah? What does it mean? And how does that keep families together?
Rosh Hashanah is called the Jewish New Year. It's actually the head of the year. And it's written in the Bible. And the rabbis tell us that Rosh Hashanah is really why that particular day. That's the sixth day of creation. You know, God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. Sixth day of creation is the day that God created Adam and Eve, created man. So it's like our birthday. And every year in Rosh Hashanah, we once again rededicate ourselves to God and accept God once again as the king. So that is really the theme of Rosh Hashanah. That's one of the things we do is to blow the shofar, right? We blow the shofar. And the shofar represents accepting God as the king. And so Rosh Hashanah is really, like January 1st, it's about going on a diet and joining the gym. Rosh Hashanah is a time to reconnect with God and reanalyze how the past year was and how you want next year to be, and also reconnect with your family. So Rosh Hashanah has two parts. There's going to the synagogue, and then there's being home with your family, eating the apples and honey. And Rosh means the head, because we believe that those 48 hours, actually, the energy of that affects how the whole year is going to be, and God decides how that year is, what year it is going to be.
Here's a simple question. How long has Rosh Hashanah been celebrated?
Since we got the Bible, which is the first time. What happened Rosh Hashanah? The Bible tells us that Adam and Eve, the animals came to Adam and Eve and said, who's created us? And Adam and Eve said, God, let's bow down to God. And we've been doing it since then.
So one of the things that I feel whenever I do a religious ceremony like this, I feel that connection, whether it was direct or it skipped a generation or two, it's just like, my family has done this for generations. And when Susan and I went to Borough Park a few years ago, I said, my family was here somewhere. Sometime they were here. Very, very emotional. That connection is so strong. And I know that's one of its purposes, to show the kids and us, listen, there's this connection, this string that puts us all together, whether it's this family or another one. And so that's the common things that we have.
Passover is really all about, and I know we're not celebrating Passover, is teaching to your children. Because it's door, generation to generation. I was just traveling in Europe this summer, and you go to parts of the world where Jews lived for thousands of years. And I always think to myself, the street that I'm walking on right now, the synagogue that I'm praying Friday night now there's only like 20 people. For 1,000 years, there were like 1,000 people there praying, and what that meant. And we're continuing to do the same thing. It's a very powerful moment when you think about that, and you, it's like a wake-up call, like, wow, it's not just me, Yossi Harlig, doing it, but my grandparents, great-grandparents did the same thing.
So some 25 years ago, the Harligs came to Miami. Do I have that age, that time?
29.
29 years ago.
Actually, in August.
In August? And you wound up at some point at 87th Avenue and 112th Street.
Right.
Was there a facility before that?
We got off the plane, rented a house turned that later they became my good friends, and we ran Chabad out of the house for a few months. Don't tell the zoning police. And but quickly we went and we found the storefront across Miami-Dade Community College. You know the Hungry Bear?
Yes.
That same shopping center?
That's 29 years ago.
29 years ago. And we were there, and then in 1999 we got zoning for the property in 87th and 112th Street. And in 2004, we bought the property south of us. And
so you moved in there when?
And we actually moved on in 2002.
And so a few years after you got the first property, you acquired the second piece.
Correct.
So what was that vision when you first went to 112th Street? And you go, okay, here's this house here, and we're going to turn it into Chabad. And what went on in your brain so that you saw that future?
Right, so I wanted to be centrally located, that the whole community could benefit from it. The South Dade, people from Pinecrest, from Kendall, everyone could come and benefit from it. And I remember I went to a donor and I said, could you help me with a deposit? They said, Rabbi, if you can't afford a deposit, why do you think you're going to buy this property? I said, don't worry. Let's just give me money for the deposit and let God take care of the rest. And that was my philosophy. So then I went to Bob Chorik. I said, I need to go to zoning. And it took a few years till we went through the process. And we passed zoning. And then passed zoning, but I don't have any money. Me, my brilliant idea. So I heard a story from the Lubavitcher Rebbe who said, a very powerful story that must probably had the biggest impact for me in fundraising. And people say, Rabbi, you raised a lot of money, you're building this big campus. The biggest impact is hearing this story. There's a story of the Baal Shem Tov. That one day he was walking down the street and he knocked on a wealthy person's window, and he walks away right away. The wealthy person opens the door, looks down the street, sees the holy Baal Shem Tov. He's the founder of the Hasidic movement. This story goes back 250 years ago in Russia. And he says, what do you need? He goes down the street, he finds him. I saw you knocked on my door. What do you need? He said, I need money. And he gave him money and he left. His students looked at their teacher and says, we don't understand. If you needed the money, why did you leave? If you didn't need the money, why did you knock on the door? So he says like this. It says in the Bible, which means God will bless you in whatever you do. You got to do something. I got to knock on the door. What happens later on, that's up to God. So I felt right then I got the strong message. I heard it right when I left the Rebbe's grave, this story, that, Yossi, don't worry. You just knock on doors. Don't panic. The rest will be taken care of. And that's what happened. I called everyone I know. I said, we have this property. It's $400,000. That time was a lot of money for us, and even for a lot of money. And we were able to raise the money. And I said, we're going to start a Chabad. And then 2004, the property behind us became available. I said, one day, I had no idea. I was just young. One day, maybe I'm going to want to build a center. I had no idea. At that time, I didn't even have Friendship Circle. And I knew that it's better to be in a whole block, and I could get there because I already knew about zoning. I said like this, if they say we don't want 112, I have 87. You don't want 87, you have 114. I had no money else to buy that property. So I went to a friend of mine that was a donor. I said, could you give me money to buy this property? Not as a donation. I'll put your name on the deed, and I'm going to have rent from the house, and I'll give you the money for the rent. It'll help pay the mortgage, whatever it is. They said, no problem. So I went and closed on the property just with the pen. I never paid, not a penny. We bought the property. Eventually, I was able to buy them out, and years later, we went to zoning, and then we started Friendship Circle along the way. So this was all.
When you got that first property, what was your vision on that property?
I had no idea. I said, one day, we're going to build something that's going to impact the community. I didn't know what it was. But when I see opportunity, I always like jumping on it right away. And the more I don't know how I'm going to pull it off, the more excited I get. Right now, we're opening a campus. We have a.
Let me explain. You have two huge lots that are together.
Correct.
You put up, you and your donors and your parishioners, and a 20,000-foot building. In that,
$16 million campaign.
And you're going to have religious services, and you're going to have services for the community, specifically for people that are in need, that need special help.
Correct, special needs.
Special needs.
And we're starting a new organization after that, which will launch after we open.
And as far as the vision, I remember you telling me before, it wasn't that you sought out, I want to open Friendship Circle.
No.
Why don't you tell us what that vision was before Friendship Circle?
I wanted to build a center that could help the whole community and a campus. I know there's a lot of needs. So I said, okay, let me get this, let me get the other property, and let's start. So originally, the whole Friendship Circle had nothing to do with special needs. It started off really because I said, how do we engage Jewish teens? We know, like you said before, the next generations of the future. How do we engage Jewish teens? To tell them to come study the Bible, like, come on, we got better things to do. This is even before social media. So I heard of a friend of mine that started this organization called Friendship Circle. How did he start it? There was a mother that the child was sitting home depressed. There was another mother that had a child that was special needs. He said, you're depressed because you don't feel like you're doing anything. Why don't we get the child that's special needs together with the child that's a teenager and put them together and let each one feel like they're doing something? So I said, wow, that's a good way to get Jewish teenagers community service and get them to do something. So I went to a few people. Said, you want to kids volunteer? No, it's never going to work. And then, so we started really from that angle. But once we started dealing with the special needs world, we started realizing like, wow, this is a world that's underserved.
So again, for people who are thinking about their goals, so often we name the action step rather than the big step. It was you were trying to get people engaged, and then there was open to a lot of possibilities. And one of those things happened to be Friendship Circle. It could have been something else, but it turned out it was that. So,
see, when you have a facility, you have a responsibility. If you're taking people's money to build something, it has to be something that's going to benefit the community. And if there's no need for that particular thing anymore, whatever that particular thing is, then you find something else. What is the need that the community needs that could benefit the people? We have another organization that we're starting, which we'll talk about once we open, that's going to really have a big impact on the community. That's what you got to do. And that's my vision, though, is, okay, what could I do to help people?
If there was a category, would you put this under mental health care? Is that, how would you describe that?
No.
Well,
mental health care was really how you help the volunteers.
okay.
So that's not mental health care. That's more of helping people that are neurodivergent and helping, you could say mental health, but also helping the families and helping the parents.
So there was just a report that came out that one of the big job opportunities in the next 10 years is for mental health providers.
Correct.
And when I look at them, think, and for years, even Rosalind Carter was, that was 40 years ago, she was pushing for, bring mental health care up to the front and center. And as far as what I saw is when Michael Phelps got on TV, and here he is, this Olympic star, this swimmer, has won more awards, I think, than just about everybody. Says, when I have a problem, I call in, happen to be a commercial for telehealth, for mental health care. And when mental health days off started there, and people started talking about cops and first responders having that sort of stress, this allowed so many other things to come forth to where it didn't have to be hidden. Because I remember when that stuff used to be hidden. Uncle Joey's over there. And
I would say it changed a lot from when we started till today. But I can tell you mental health, yes. So a very tragic story happened in our community 3 years ago, I think it was, where a mother drowned her kid, Alejandro. And at that time, I didn't really know her, but people who knew her said she was there was a period of her life that she was a very dedicated mother, but she couldn't handle him and she pushed him over. And I remember pushed him into the canal. It was a very sad story. You remember the story. Anyway, I think now is her trial. But I remember at that time talking to different parents. What do you think about it? Who are raising children with special needs? And they all said, not they all, a lot of them said they were on that bridge. So we started something called the Lifeline, which is basically one of the most stressful things for families when you have a child on the spectrum is you go to a doctor, they say your kid is autistic and the world is crashing down here. What do? So they give you brochures, call this place and that place. It's overwhelming. People cry. And I speak across the board. Rich people, poor people, well-connected, not connected. It's overwhelming. I don't want people to get that brochure anymore and just have to be stuck alone. You come to us. We have case managers. We're going to walk you through the process and actually do it for you. That's mental health, helping the parents and helping the children.
So I remember one time I went to one of my doctors and he goes, so what's going on, Michael? I go, I don't know. But since I came here, I just feel so much better. And it was just knowing that I could go to somebody who would listen for 5 minutes. And he said, well, since you're here, let's do all these tests anyway. But what you realize is that people, they want to be involved and they don't want to feel alone. And because when anybody in that family feels alone, then the separation of the family continues like that rather than it pulling back together. So
right. Another nice thing about building a Chabad and Friendship Circle together is you want to bring both communities together, meaning you don't want to just have a building. The only ones that go there is neurodivergent children or adults. You want it to be a place that people are coming for other reasons to the place, and for them it becomes the norm. When you go on a plane, you see a child on the spectrum, a young adult. You go to a restaurant, you come to our campus, other things are going to be going on at the same time, and it'll just be a normal thing.
So often, even now, sometimes we'll whisper, pss, 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 like that, making reference to somebody's position or whatever they happen to be. It might be the way they look or the color of their skin or their gender or whatever it is. But we realize that is all becoming much more normalized. And the families have felt alienated. I see that. We talk to the people. And let's talk about the clients, the young people that come to your place. What is the age? Is there a certain age group that's there? Is there a certain gender more than others?
Right. So age, we have all ages. What's becoming very big now, and it's a very big need, is adults. Because basically kids are in a school, and then they have, a lot of them have therapy afterwards. And some of them come to our program. But the adults age out of school. I think when you're neurodivergent, you by 22 you age out, and they have nowhere to go. That population and the community is realizing it. This is really the numbers are growing, and we need to be able to take care of them. So that's a part that's really growing, and that we don't have an age limit, meaning someone's 30, 40 years old. We have different groups, meaning we don't put a 40-year-old with a 5-year-old, but we started that program. But once we opened the campus, we're going to be able to do a lot more.
So tell us about what type of activities are you going to be doing, and when are you going to open it, and what does that look like?
All right. So right now, I mean, the property is looking great. We still got to raise another $4 million, really another $2 million. That's our next goal. So maybe some of your listeners want to help. There's still room dedications opportunities. We can still call it the Miller Campus for $5 million for Miller Campus. How does that sound? Community newspaper, Miller Campus.
I'll speak to my rich younger brother.
Right. So we're in the permit phases now, and going well. But that time takes. If I had to guess, I tell my staff we're going to run programs from there, God willing, by January of 2025.
That's pretty soon.
Yeah. I mean, the building's almost done. Pretty much. Right now we're calling for permits, but there's always things.
So 87th Avenue, 112th Street, that's on the west side.
Southwest corner.
Yeah, southwest
Anyone
corner.
passes a beautiful campus.
I drove by a couple times, actually. It was like, holy moly.
Yeah.
It's
really exciting. We had a lot of support of the community. A lot of people helping. We're starting now a BRICS program, which basically is for $1,000. People want to put the name on the connect to the campus, but a lot of rooms are $250,000, $500,000, $1 million. So for $1,000, you can put a brick and honor a child or memory of someone, or if you're a parent of a volunteer, you can put your kid's name.
It's going to be on a brick in the driveway?
It's going to be right by the front door. And the nice thing is, if you can't give $1,000 in one shot, you could pay it over the year. It's $80 a month, $83 a month. And our goal is to be able to raise $1 million for the bricks. So this will allow us to open the doors. But we want everyone to have an opportunity to say, yes, I was part of this drive to open up this campus.
So 30 years ago, from where did you come, sir?
I was of Brooklyn, New York, Crown Heights. I had the great blessing to be raised next to Lubavitcher Rebbe, my teacher, my mentor, my spiritual leader. He was the one who inspired Nechama and I to move out here, to open up a Chabad. And now my son, Moshe, who grew up in Kendall, was born in Baptist Hospital, went to the JCC, now his own daughter's going to the JCC. Came in to join our team and be a Chabad rabbi in our Chabad center.
Where's the Chabad center?
No, to join us in our our staff, my son.
Wow. Congratulations to him that he figured out how to work with you.
Correct. He just started. So let's, right. So the point is, we as Chabad individuals, this is a big honor to know you can make a difference in people's lives. You're talking about doing things. I became a chaplain, police chaplain. Why did I become a police chaplain? First, I thought it'll be easy to get off tickets. But besides that, nobody listens to the show, so I could say what I want, right? Anyone listening? But little did I know, there was a period in my life I said to myself, like, why am I even doing it? Not a lot of Jewish police officers, but then Surfside happened, which we spoke about many times, and I was thrown into the center with affecting the Jewish community. So your point is, a lot of times you do things for one reason, and I always tell people, younger people who I'm coaching, just go out and do it. Don't overthink it. Go out and do it. It's going to turn out very different than you can.
So often when we go to gatherings, I say to myself and to others, you may think you know why you're here, but you know what? You may not know for a long time why you showed up.
By the way, one of my closest friends, a big supporter, I met through your event. I went to an event. I met one lady who heard that I run a program of special needs. Just in a conversation, she said, oh my God, I got to introduce you to my close friend. She introduced me to my close friend, and her brother is the lieutenant governor, and she joined the French Circle. Her kids joined it, volunteers and special needs. Turned out to become a big supporter, a close friend. She introduced me to other people. So, Michael, some good things come besides the free lunch. Some good things come. No, but it was from your show. Not your show, your program that you did in Pinecrest.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We have a great team that makes that happen. But let's look back for you 30 years ago. There must have been this drive inside you that you externalize now with so far and doing this and helping literally hundreds and hundreds of families and affecting thousands of people, because we know that for every person there's a family of 2 to 20 when you're depending on how far you go out. And when you think of all the students that had the opportunities to work at Friendship Circle over the years, some for many, many years, and who are now college graduates, maybe
1,343. Because one of the rooms, the wall, we're going to put in the name of every kid, and we actually counted them.
Yeah,
1,343 volunteers went through our program.
And all because one day, years ago, you said, let's see if we could get kids involved.
Correct.
And then we'll find a mechanism for that, rather
Right.
than the other way around.
Right.
And so often we go, I want to do this. No, but why do you want to do that? Because it's going to get here. So why don't we look at this bigger picture? So my question to you, Rabbi, what's next?
What's next is we have another organization we're starting. Very exciting thing that's really tying in Chabad and Friendship Circle, which we'll announce on your show once we open up. And I think now that we're opening up the campus, now you really can help a lot of people, and you got to grow your programs. There's even a greater demand for us. You know, our staff has grown a lot. Our needs have grown a lot. You know, financially we have to raise a lot more money, but I think we have a greater responsibility to make sure that you're not just building a campus and give a nice tour. Hey, it's a beautiful campus. But we want other organizations to be able to use our campus. We want it to be a place that's, like you mentioned to me before, you love when you saw 3 shows at the same time. I love my staff. I don't know if they love it. There's a lot of people going around and being impacted. So I feel like, okay, now I'm opening this place. Now we got to make sure that people can take advantage of this. If you want to do a lecture, if you need to bring your, I mean, you don't need it. But if someone has a place, they need a place. They want to do a parenting lecture or a bereavement thing or something for Jewish education. So to me, it's like now starts the next phase. And everyone tells me who has built buildings, once you open up a campus, you'll see. It's going to take it to a new level.
So you mentioned about responsibilities. I think we get to some point in our lives where we say, yes, it's your responsibility to do that. Not something that you might want to do, but something that you need to do.
I use that all the time, Rosh Hashanah. In America, it's all about what are my rights. Like you have the right to walk down the street if someone's on the floor not to help them. I have my rights. In Judaism, it's not about your rights, it's about your responsibilities. It's not about my rights. I have my rights. In America, what's your rights? Let me ask my lawyer, what's my rights? Forget about your rights. What's your responsibility?
Yep.
Responsibility to help a person, the responsibility to reach out, the responsibility to be caring, then do it.
Okay, so next let's talk about a few weeks ago you were walking from your home. It's about a half a mile to the Chabad. And as you were walking down the street, I know there were 2 occasions, but one in particular. Why don't you talk about what was said to you as you're walking down the street?
You know, unfortunately, this has been, getting to Rosh Hashanah has been a very challenging year for the Jewish people. Because it's October 7th. And besides what Hamas tried to do is seeing anti-Semitism in the world. October 8th and 9th, the hate, and for certain individuals. I'm not saying this is everyone. I also saw a lot of love from people. But unfortunately, a lot of the anti-Semites, the people that hate Jews, don't kid yourself. It's not about Israel, it's about the Jewish people. How do I know that? Because it happened a few times when I was walking down Killy and someone shout out, "Free Palestine." I said, yes, from Hamas. But this time was about a month ago. I was walking down on 87th on 112th Street. 4 people in a car, and they scream. They lower the window and they scream, "Go back to the gas chambers!" And I'm thinking to myself, it's interesting. Here I'm in Miami. I'm in Killian. I'm not in Israel. I'm not an IDF soldier. I have no kids in the IDF. I don't have any families that, like my own siblings, living in Israel, fighting, so to speak, the oppression of whatever they claim to be. So why are you telling me to go back to gas chambers? So I said, you know why? Because the whole world looks at the Jewish people as one family. And they're right. We are one family. So if someone does something in Israel, it bothers them, but we do it, me walking here in the street. And, always you could say, I should be worried and watch out. Absolutely not. I traveled in Europe this summer. I made sure I wore my kippah all the time. We're done with running away. We're done with hiding who I am. I will never hide my Jewish identity. This is who I am. We're not going anymore on trains. I'm done with that. We have to walk around proud. And I think as a Jewish community, people have to start reflecting not as much about the anti-Semitism and the hate. We have to know that it exists and try to change that. But you also have to know, what does it mean to be a Jew?
So we have 2 minutes left. Is there something you want to do concerning Rosh Hashanah? You want to do a prayer or something? Yeah,
so Rosh Hashanah is a great time of the year because it's a time to hit the reset button. When I say hit the reset button is you could, every day we go through life, things could be better, it could be worse. and the next day the same thing happens. But Rosh Hashanah has special energy that God gives us that will not only help those 48 hours, but help us for the year. But we got to do something about it. How do we do something about it? By taking upon ourselves that this coming year, something very practical that I'm going to do within Judaism. It could be, putting on tefillin once a week. You could go to synagogue once a month. It could be studying Torah. With your shows, one of the amazing things is you could be anywhere and listen to the show. But the same thing is to study, go anywhere online, a podcast, and study the Bible. So Rosh Hashanah, it's not just I came, I ate apple dipped in honey at Simas, but it's what am I going to do this coming year in my personal life, for the community, for something very specific. One thing, not a big thing, once a month, once a week, and something in Judaism that you're going to do. Then you know that the coming year is not just going to be another year, but it'll be a year of change. And I'll conclude, there was a lady that worked for hospice for many years. She wrote a book, and she wrote what people go through their mind before they die. The number one regret people have? Michael, guess. Most people can't get it. What do you think the number one regret?
Spending time with their family.
Right, that's usually everyone says no. The number one regret people have is they didn't live the life they knew they should have lived. Meaning, everyone knows spending time with family is the most important thing. But why didn't they do it? Everyone knows, being honest in business is important. Why didn't they do it? So most people say, you know what? I knew better. But why did I let my life go to waste? Didn't get in touch with my Judaism. Wasn't such a good husband. Wasn't such a good wife. Wasn't spending time with the family or whatever. Give charity. Most people know what the right thing to do. What happens, you regret is, so why didn't I do it? We can't change completely and be angels. God didn't create us angels. But what we could do is, each one of those things that we really know we should be doing, pick a little thing. Once we go with your wife, come home a little earlier. Try to be a little more patient. Try to study a little bit Bible. Try to put on film, light Shabbos candles. You know what? I'll make a blessing of food. Find one thing. Then when it's all said and done, you're not going to say, why didn't I do it? You say, I did do it. That's what we need to do.
Rabbi Yossi Harlig, thank you very much for being here. And to you,
my honor.
Rosh Hashanah. Folks, thank you for joining us. Remember, take care of yourselves and your family. Have a good day.